Commander Zethkar looked at the blue planet through the viewing screen of his massive warship. Earth looked small and weak from space. Just another world to add to his collection. He had conquered 17 star systems in the past 5 years. This would be number 18. The Voidian Empire had sent him here with the largest invasion fleet ever assembled. 300 warships surrounded the small human world. Intelligence reports said humans had only recently learned to travel between stars. Their weapons were simple. Their governments could not even agree with each other. This would be easy. Zethkar's second-in-command walked up to him. "Sir, the human fleet is approaching, only 12 ships." The alien commander almost laughed. 12 ships against 300. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. Probably stupid. On the bridge of the human ship called Liberty, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet through his own screens. The enemy ships were huge and black, like giant insects floating in space. His small fleet looked like toys next to them. "Admiral, we're getting a message from the alien commander," said his communications officer. "Put it through." The alien face that appeared on screen was tall and thin with yellow eyes. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound cold and metallic. "Human leader, I am Commander Zethkar of the Voidian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender your ships and we will allow your people to live as our servants." Morrison stood up straight. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars before aliens ever came to Earth. "Commander Zethkar, this is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. We reject your demand. This is our home, and we will defend it." Zethkar's yellow eyes showed surprise. No species had ever refused his first offer. Usually they begged for mercy. "Admiral Morrison, you have 12 ships, I have 300. Your defeat is certain. Why do you choose death over slavery?" Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Because we're human, Commander. We don't know how to quit." The communication ended. Zethkar turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy 5 of their ships. When they see how outmatched they are, they will surrender." The alien weapons fired bright beams of energy across the darkness of space. 2 human ships exploded immediately. A third ship, the destroyer called Defiance, was badly damaged but still fighting. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the Defiance. Half her crew was dead. Her ship was losing air and power. She could see the massive alien flagship in the distance, the one belonging to Zethkar himself. "Captain, we should retreat," said her first officer. "The ship won't last much longer." Hayes looked at the alien fleet. 300 ships against what was left of 12. But something burned inside her chest. Something that made her angry instead of afraid. "No retreat," she said. "Set course. For the alien flagship, full speed." "Captain, that's suicide." "Maybe, but if we're going to die, we're taking some of them with us." The Defiance turned toward Zethkar's massive ship. Its engines glowed brighter as Hayes pushed them beyond their limits. The small human destroyer looked like a shooting star racing toward the alien fleet. Zethkar watched the damaged human ship approaching. "What are they doing? Are they trying to ram us?" "Sir, no species has ever attempted a ramming attack. It means certain death for the attacking ship." The Defiance smashed into the rear engines of Zethkar's flagship. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. The alien ship shuddered and began to lose power. Captain Hayes and her entire crew died in the blast, but they had crippled the most powerful ship in the Voidian fleet. As Zethkar's ship drifted helplessly, he heard Hayes' final message broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Lisa. Hayes of the Earthship Defiance. Tell the rest of the fleet that humans don't surrender. Tell the rest of the galaxy that Earth will not bow." The battle that followed lasted for 3 days. Human ships fought like nothing Zethkar had ever seen. When the cruiser Valiant lost its weapons, Captain Ben Cross used his ship to shield a transport full of civilians. When the destroyer Courage ran out of ammunition, Commander Amy Foster led her crew in a final attack that destroyed 6 alien ships. More human ships arrived on the 2nd day. Admiral Katie Bell brought reinforcements, but these were different from normal warships. They were converted cargo ships filled with explosives. Volunteers piloted them straight into alien formations. "Sir, the humans are using suicide tactics," reported Zethkar's tactical officer. "Every ship they lose takes several of ours with them." Zethkar could not understand it. His species fought for territory and resources. When defeat became certain, they surrendered to fight another day. But humans seemed to fight for something else, something that made them willing to die rather than give up. On the third day, the last human ship was destroyed. Admiral Morrison's Liberty exploded after ramming through the center of an alien battle group. But 60% of Zethkar's fleet was gone. Ships that had conquered worlds across the galaxy were now floating debris. The surviving humans retreated to the inner planets of their solar system. Their final message was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. "We are humanity. We are the children of Earth. We do not yield. We do not surrender. We will fight you in space, on our worlds, in our cities, and in our homes. You may defeat our ships, but you will never defeat our spirit." Zethkar stared at the blue planet that had cost him so much. He had won the battle, but for the first time in his military career, victory felt like defeat. These humans were not like other species. They were something new, something dangerous, something that might change everything. Commander Zethkar stood on the balcony of his command center in what used to be New York City. The human city lay in ruins below him. Smoke rose from broken buildings. His soldiers patrolled the empty streets. After 1 month of occupation, Earth should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like a trap. Every day brought new problems. Supply convoys disappeared without a trace. Communications went dead for hours at a time. Patrols that went into certain areas never came back. The humans had surrendered their armies, but somehow the war continued. "Sir, we lost another supply depot last night," reported Sub-Commander Vrextal. The humans used some kind of explosive device hidden in the building's foundation. Zethkar turned from the window. "How many soldiers?" 43 dead, sir. The entire depot was destroyed. Food and medical supplies for 2 weeks, gone. This was the 15th supply depot lost in 3 weeks. The humans seemed to know exactly where to strike and when. It was as if they had been planning for this invasion long before it happened. Deep beneath the ruined city, Sergeant Tony Blake crawled through a subway tunnel. His uniform was dirty and torn. He had not seen sunlight in 2 weeks. Behind him, 12 other soldiers followed in silence. They moved like ghosts through the underground passages that the aliens did not know existed. "Sergeant, we're approaching the target," whispered Private Kelly Price. Blake held up his hand to stop the group. Through a crack in the tunnel wall, he could see alien soldiers setting up a checkpoint above them. 20 aliens with advanced weapons controlling one of the main roads into the city. "Remember the plan?" Blake whispered to his team. "We hit them fast and disappear before their reinforcements arrive. No heroics. We're not trying to win the war today. We're just making it expensive for them to stay here." The attack lasted 3 minutes. Blake's team came up through maintenance holes in the street. They threw grenades and fired their simple human weapons before vanishing back underground. When alien reinforcements arrived, they found nothing but empty tunnels and 20 dead soldiers. This same scene played out across the planet. In Seoul, Dr. Helen Park had hidden weapons and supplies in abandoned subway stations throughout the city. When alien patrols came looking for them, they found booby traps that turned entire city blocks into dangerous zones. Dr. Park was a small woman who had taught physics at the university before the invasion. Now she crawled through maintenance, tunnels, planting explosives, and coordinating resistance cells. She had never fired a gun before the aliens came. Now she knew how to make bombs from household chemicals. "The key is patience," she told her team through encrypted radio. "We make them afraid to leave their bases. We make every street corner a potential ambush. We turn their victory into a nightmare." In the Australian desert, Ranger Dale Murphy had turned the harsh landscape into his ally. He led a group of 60 survivors who knew every waterhole, every cave, every dangerous animal for hundreds of miles. When alien forces tried to establish a base in the outback, they found themselves fighting not just humans but the land itself. Murphy had worked in the desert for 20 years. He knew which snakes were deadly, which spiders could kill a man, and where to find water when the temperature reached 50 degrees. The aliens knew none of these things. "They're not built for this heat," Murphy told his people as they watched an alien patrol struggle across the sand dunes. "Their equipment breaks down. Their vehicles overheat. Out here, we have the advantage." The alien patrol never made it back to base. Some died from heat stroke. Others fell victim to the venomous creatures that Murphy's team had carefully guided into their path. The few survivors were found days later, half dead from thirst and terror. These stories reached Commander Zethkar through daily reports that grew more disturbing each week. In Chicago, Colonel Steve Barnes had organized a resistance network that included everyone from retired soldiers to teenage computer experts. They had turned the ruined city into a maze of hidden passages and secret bases. Barnes was 60 years old and had fought in 3 wars before retiring. When the aliens invaded, he came out of retirement to teach young humans how to fight an enemy with superior technology. His lessons were simple: use their strength against them, never fight fair, and always have an escape plan. "We're not trying to beat them in open battle," Barnes explained to a group of new recruits hiding in an abandoned shopping mall. "We're trying to make them go home. Every day they stay here costs them soldiers, supplies, and morale. Eventually, they'll decide Earth isn't worth the price." The breaking point came when Captain Nina Wells led a raid on a major alien supply base outside the city. Wells was a police officer before the invasion. She had no military training, but she understood tactics and timing. Her team of 12 humans studied the alien patrol schedules for 2 weeks before making their move. The alien base held 200 soldiers and enough supplies to feed the occupation force for a month. It should have been impossible to attack, with only 12 people. But Wells had learned something important about the aliens. They followed patterns. They were predictable. Her team struck at 3 in the morning when most of the aliens were sleeping. They used the aliens' own weapons against them, turned their security systems into traps, and destroyed the entire base in less than an hour. When alien reinforcements arrived, they found Wells's team had vanished into the night, leaving behind a message painted on the wall. "Welcome to Earth. Population, still fighting." Commander Zethkar read the report of the base attack with growing concern. These humans were not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They did not try to hold territory or protect fixed positions. Instead, they struck without warning and disappeared like smoke. "Sir, I don't understand their strategy," said Vrextal. "They cannot hope to defeat our main forces with these small attacks." Zethkar stared at the tactical display showing dozens of small resistance cells across the planet. Red dots marked areas where his forces had been attacked. The entire map was covered in red. "They're not trying to defeat us in battle," he said slowly. "They're trying to make us leave. Every attack makes it more expensive for us to stay. Every dead soldier makes the others more afraid. They're fighting a war of attrition. But sir, we have superior technology and numbers. We should be able to crush any resistance." Zethkar walked back to the window and looked down at the human city. Somewhere in those ruins, humans were planning their next attack. They were making weapons from scraps, sharing information through hidden networks, and teaching their children to fight. Vrextal, these humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They know every trick, every tactic, every way to turn weakness into strength. We thought we were conquering a primitive world. Instead, we've invaded a planet full of natural-born guerrilla fighters. The realization that would change everything was just beginning to form in Zethkar's mind. Earth was not conquered, it was simply occupied. And there was a very important difference between those two things. Dr. Carl Jensen sat in the cold metal chair, looking at the alien interrogator across the table. His hands were tied behind his back, but his eyes were calm. He had been captured 3 days ago while trying to reach a hidden supply cache in the ruins of Denver. Now Sub-Commander Vrextal wanted answers. "Human, you will tell us how your resistance networks communicate," Vrextal said in his translated voice. "We know you coordinate attacks across the planet. How do you share information?" Jensen was a thin man in his 50s who had taught history at the university before the invasion. He studied wars and battles from the past. Now he was living in one. Commander, you really want to understand how we fight? Jensen asked. I can tell you, but you won't like the answer. Vrextal leaned forward. For 3 months, the Voidian occupation had been bleeding soldiers and supplies. Every day brought new attacks, new losses, new problems. The alien commanders needed to understand their enemy. Speak. Jensen smiled, but it was a sad smile. We've been preparing for this war for over 200 years. Not because we knew aliens would come, but because we've always been fighting each other. The alien interrogator looked confused. Explain. Every country on Earth has plans for fighting bigger, stronger enemies. We call it asymmetric warfare. We've studied every rebellion, every resistance movement, every time the weak defeated the strong. Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Warsaw Ghetto, the French Resistance. We made movies about it, wrote books about it, taught it in our schools. Jensen leaned back in his chair. When I was a child, I played war games. I learned about famous battles, where small forces defeated large armies. Every human child grows up hearing stories about heroes who never gave up, even when defeat was certain. Vrextal made notes on his electronic pad. This was new information. Most species they conquered were peaceful. They had no experience with long-term resistance. You are saying your species studies warfare as entertainment? Not just entertainment, education. We have a saying, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We never forgot how to fight. Impossible odds because we never stopped practicing. Jensen looked directly at the alien commander. Do you want to know the real secret? The thing that makes us dangerous? Tell me. We teach our children that some things are worth dying for. Freedom is one of them. We have stories about heroes who chose death over slavery. We celebrate people who fought hopeless battles because fighting was the right thing to do. Vrextal set down his pad. This makes no strategic sense. Dead soldiers cannot win wars. You're thinking like a Voidian, Jensen said. You fight for territory and resources. When the cost becomes too high, you retreat and find easier targets. We fight for ideas, and ideas don't die when the person carrying them dies. The interrogation continued for hours. Jensen told Vrextal about human military doctrine, about contingency plans that every government had prepared, about civilian populations trained to become soldiers at a moment's notice. The more he learned, the more worried Vrextal became. 2. Days later, they captured Agent Rachel Stone. Stone was different from Jensen. She was younger, stronger, and had been trained for exactly this situation. She worked for Earth's intelligence service before the invasion. She knew secrets that could change everything. Commander Zethkar decided to question her personally. He found Stone sitting calmly in her cell, as if being captured was part of her plan. Agent Stone, I know you have information about human military capabilities. Your resistance cannot continue much longer. Tell me what I need to know and your people can surrender with honor. Stone looked at Zethkar with steady eyes. She was a woman in her 30s with short dark hair and scars on her hands from weapons, training. Commander, you think you've conquered Earth. You think the hard part is over. You're wrong about everything. Explain. What you fought at Earth was not our real military. Those were mostly civilian volunteers and reserve forces, farmers, teachers, shop clerks who answered the call when we needed them. Zethkar felt something cold in his chest. That is impossible. Your Admiral Morrison commanded your defense fleet. Morrison was retired. He came out of retirement to buy us time. Hayes, Cross, Foster, all the captains who died fighting you. They were reservists, weekend warriors, people with other jobs who trained part-time. Stone stood up in her cell. The real Earth military evacuated to hidden bases months before you arrived. Mars, Europa, Titan, bases you don't even know exist. While you were fighting our grocery store clerks and high school teachers, our professional soldiers were watching and learning. You lie. Stone smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Commander, let me ask you something. How many of your ships have you lost since the occupation began? Zethkar did not answer, but Stone could see the truth in his yellow eyes. More than you expected, right? You came here with 300 ships. How many do you have left that are fully operational, enough to maintain control. Are you sure? Because Admiral Jack Coleman has been counting. He knows exactly how many ships you have, where they are, and what condition they're in. The name hit Zethkar like a physical blow. Intelligence reports had mentioned Coleman as Earth's top military commander, but he was supposed to be dead. Coleman died in the defense of Mars colony. No, Commander. Coleman was never at Mars. That was Lieutenant Colonel Pete Mason, a good man who volunteered to use Coleman's name and rank. The real Admiral Coleman has been hiding in the outer system with the real human fleet, watching you make mistakes. Stone walked to the front of her cell and gripped the metal bars. Do you want to know what Coleman has been doing while you were playing occupation games with our civilians? Zethkar found himself leaning forward despite his fear. He's been studying your tactics, your weapons, your ship designs. Every battle you've fought, every patrol you've lost, every supply convoy that disappeared. Coleman's people have been taking notes. They know how you think, how you fight, how you react under pressure. Stone's voice became quieter, more dangerous. Coleman is the man who developed human asymmetric warfare doctrine. He wrote the books on fighting superior forces. He planned the defense of Earth from the beginning, and losing the first battle was part of his plan. That makes no strategic sense, doesn't it? You showed us everything about your capabilities in that first battle. Your weapons, your ships, your tactics. Meanwhile, you learned almost nothing about our real military strength because we weren't using it. Zethkar felt the room spinning around him. You sacrificed your own people as a deception? We sacrificed heroes who volunteered to die so that our species could learn how to beat you. Every pilot who rammed your ships, every soldier who held a hopeless position, every civilian who joined the resistance. They died to teach us how to win. Stone's final words echoed in the silence of the interrogation room. Commander, you've been fighting the opening moves of a chess game, and you thought you were playing the whole match. The real game is about to begin. As if summoned by her words, alarms began sounding throughout the alien base. Emergency lights flashed red. Soldiers ran through the corridors shouting in their alien language. Brextal burst into the interrogation room. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet approaching from the outer system. Hundreds of ships, all showing human energy. Signatures. Zethkar stared at Agent Stone, who was smiling now. Admiral Coleman sends his regards, Commander, and he wants his planet back. Admiral Jack Coleman stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance, as it emerged from behind Jupiter. Around him, 200 human warships came out of hiding like hunters appearing from the forest. These were not the desperate defenders that Zethkar had fought months ago. These were professional soldiers with professional weapons, and they had come to take their planet back. Admiral, all ships report ready for combat, said Captain Roy Fisher from the dreadnought Retribution. The alien fleet is moving to intercept. Coleman was a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military fighting in wars across human space. He had studied every battle in human history, learned from every victory and defeat. Now he would use that knowledge against an alien enemy. Captain Fisher, begin attack pattern Alpha. Commander Chen, take your stealth squadron around their left flank. Wait for my signal. The human fleet moved with precision that spoke of months of planning and training. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the plan. They had practiced these maneuvers while hiding in the asteroid belt, using rocks and ice as target practice. Commander Zethkar watched the approaching human fleet with growing fear. These ships were different from the ones he had fought before. Sleeker, deadlier, built specifically for war. Their formation was perfect, their approach calculated to maximum advantage. Sir, our tactical computers cannot predict their attack patterns, reported his weapons officer. They are not following standard military doctrine. That was because Coleman was not using standard doctrine. He was using human doctrine, developed through centuries of warfare against other humans. It was based on deception, misdirection, and hitting the enemy where they least expected it. Captain Roy Fisher commanded the Retribution, the largest ship in Coleman's fleet. It was armed with weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Human, scientists had spent months studying captured Voidian technology, learning its weaknesses, developing countermeasures. Target the alien flagship, Fisher ordered. Fire quantum torpedoes. The torpedoes looked like normal missiles to the aliens, so they used their standard defense, energy shields that could stop any known weapon. The torpedoes passed through, the shields like they were not there, and exploded against the alien hull. Impossible, Zethkar whispered as his ship shuddered from the impact. Our shields should have stopped those weapons. Sir, the human weapons are using some kind of phase technology. They ignore our defensive systems. Dr. Patricia Bell, serving as Coleman's science officer, had developed the phase weapons after studying alien shield generators for 3 months. She was a small woman who had worked in weapons research before the invasion. Now her inventions were turning the tide of battle. Admiral, the alien shields operate on specific energy frequencies, she had explained to Coleman during their planning sessions. If we can match those frequencies and reverse the polarity, our weapons will pass right through. It was working perfectly. Human missiles and energy beams cut through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Ships that had conquered 17 star systems found themselves helpless against Earth technology they had never seen before. Commander Grace Chen led a squadron of 12 stealth frigates around the alien fleet's left side. Her ships were painted black and used special coating that made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors. The aliens did not know she was there until her torpedoes started exploding among their supply ships. This is Chen to all stealth units. Target their fuel tankers and ammunition carriers. Make them burn. The stealth attack destroyed a dozen alien support ships before they even knew they were under attack. Without fuel and ammunition, the alien warships would become helpless within hours. Lieutenant Commander Rick Hayes led a squadron of destroyers in coordinated ramming attacks, but these were nothing like the desperate suicide runs from the first battle. These ships were specially built for ramming, with reinforced hulls and escape pods that launched automatically before impact. Hayes was the cousin of Lisa Hayes, the captain who had died ramming Zethkar's flagship months ago. He had volunteered for this mission to honor her memory, but he planned to survive it. All ramming units remember the drill. Hit them fast, launch the pods, let the automated systems finish the job. We're going home to our families after this. His destroyer smashed into an alien cruiser at full speed. The escape pod launched just before impact, carrying Hayes and his crew to safety. The destroyer's computer system guided the wreck into the alien ship's reactor core, destroying both vessels in a massive explosion. The space battle lasted 6 hours. Admiral Coleman used every trick he had learned in 30 years of warfare. He used the gravity of Jupiter's moons to slingshot his ships into impossible attack positions. He sent false signals to confuse alien communications. He even used the asteroid belt as a weapon, pushing large rocks into the path of alien ships. Captain Luke Morrison, the younger brother of Jake Morrison who had died in the first battle, led the final assault on Zethkar's command ship. His cruiser, the Liberty II, was named after his brother's destroyed flagship. "This is for Jake," Morrison said as his ship's weapons tore through the alien command center, "and for everyone else who died defending Earth." Zethkar's ship lost power and began drifting helplessly. Around him, what was left of his invasion fleet was surrendering or trying to escape. In 6 hours, Coleman had destroyed or captured more than half the Voidian fleet. "Sir, we must evacuate," Vrextal told his commander. "The ship is losing life support." Zethkar looked at the tactical display one last time. Red symbols showed destroyed alien ships scattered across the solar system. Green symbols showed human ships moving to rescue survivors. Even in victory, the humans followed rules of war. "Admiral Coleman is requesting communication," the communications officer reported. Coleman's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but satisfied. Behind him, the bridge of the Vengeance hummed with quiet efficiency. "Commander Zethkar, this is Admiral Coleman of the United Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are destroyed or captured. I am offering you and your surviving personnel safe passage to the edge of our solar system in exchange for the immediate withdrawal of all Voidian forces from Earth." Zethkar found himself looking at a human who had outfought him at every turn. Coleman had predicted every move, countered every tactic, turned every advantage into a disadvantage. "How?" Zethkar asked. How did you know what we would do? Coleman's expression was grim. Commander, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've made every mistake, learned every lesson, adapted every tactic. When you invaded Earth, you weren't just fighting one planet. You were fighting the accumulated military knowledge of our entire species. Your first attack taught us everything. We needed to know about your capabilities. Your occupation showed us your weaknesses. Your confidence made you predictable. We've been 3 steps ahead of you since the day you arrived. Zethkar felt the weight of total defeat settling on his shoulders. What are your terms? Complete withdrawal from the Sol system within 24 hours. Release of all human prisoners. Compensation for damages to our cities and infrastructure. And a promise that the Voidian Empire will never again threaten human space. And if we refuse? Coleman's smile was cold as space itself. Then we follow you home, Commander, and we show your people what humans do to species that threaten our families. As rescue pods evacuated the surviving aliens, Coleman transmitted one final message to the defeated invasion force. Commander Zethkar, tell your superiors that Earth is under the protection of humanity. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, and we are not the most advanced, but we are the most stubborn. We never give up. We never surrender. And we never forget. The broken remains of the Voidian fleet limped toward the edge of the solar system, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were warriors, who had learned to turn their greatest weakness into their greatest strength. 6 months after the defeated Earth, Commander Zethkar stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. The great chamber was filled with representatives from 47 different species. He had requested this emergency session to warn them about humanity. Now he faced the most important speech of his life. Council leader Zerion of the Crystalline Collective called the session to order. His crystal body reflected the lights of the chamber as he spoke. Commander Zethkar, you have requested to address the council about the species known as humans. The floor is yours. Zethkar walked to the center of the chamber. Around him sat beings from across the galaxy. Some were tall and thin like his own people. Others were short and round. Some breathed different gases or lived at different temperatures. But all of them had one thing in common. None of them had ever fought humans. Honored representatives, Zethkar began. I stand before you as the commander of what was once the most powerful invasion fleet in Voidian history. 300 ships, 60,000 soldiers, weapons that had conquered 17 star systems. In 6 months, the humans destroyed us completely. A murmur went through the chamber. Representative Koldar of the Ursine Confederation stood up. He was a large bear-like creature with thick fur and sharp claws. Commander, surely you exaggerate. Our intelligence reports say humans are a young species with limited technology. That is what we believed, Zethkar replied. We were wrong about everything. He activated a holographic display that showed the Earth solar system. Humans are not the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their ships are slower than ours. Their weapons have less range. Their population is smaller than most spacefaring civilizations. The display changed to show battle footage from the invasion. But they have something we had never encountered before. They have spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to fight enemies stronger than themselves. General Havrok of the Titan clans interrupted. He was a warrior species, bred for battle, with thick armor plating and powerful weapons. Commander, all species learn warfare. This is natural. No, General, you do not understand. Most species fight for resources, territory, or survival. When defeat becomes certain, they surrender or retreat to fight another day. This is logical behavior. Zethkar touched his control device and the display showed Captain Lisa Hayes ramming her destroyer into his flagship. Humans fight for ideas. They believe some things are more important than their own lives. They would rather die than accept slavery. The chamber fell silent as they watched the desperate battle at Earth. Representative Velani of the Aquatic Union spoke up. She was a graceful water-breathing species known for their peaceful nature. Commander, surely this was just the behavior of a few extremists. I thought so too, Zethkar said, until I spent 3 months occupying their world. The display changed to show images from the resistance movement on Earth. Subway tunnels filled with improvised explosives, desert regions where alien patrols simply vanished, cities where every building could be a trap. Every human civilian became a potential soldier. Doctors made bombs from medical supplies. Teachers organized resistance networks. Children memorized secret codes and carried messages between adult fighters. Dr. Silmata of the Scientific Consortium raised a tentacle. She was a highly intelligent species that valued logic above all else. This behavior is inefficient. Guerrilla, warfare cannot defeat a technologically superior occupation force. That is what I believed, Zethkar said. But I was thinking like a Voidian. Humans do not fight to win individual battles. They fight to make the cost of victory too high for their enemies to accept. He showed them reports of the daily losses during the occupation. Supply convoys destroyed, patrols ambushed, communication, networks disrupted. Every day we stayed on Earth cost us soldiers and equipment. Every victory felt like a defeat because it came at such a high price. But the real shock came when I learned the truth about human military doctrine. Zethkar continued. Everything we had fought was a deception. Their real military had been hiding in the outer planets, studying our tactics, learning our weaknesses. The display showed Admiral Coleman's counterattack, human ships moving with precision and coordination that spoke of careful planning, weapons that ignored Voidian defenses, tactics that had been refined through centuries of human warfare. Ambassador Trixnall of the Hive Collective clicked her mandibles nervously. Her species fought as a unified organism, following the commands of their queen. Commander, how can a divided species coordinate such complex strategies? That is another thing that makes them dangerous, Zethkar replied. Humans are divided into hundreds of nations and cultures, but when threatened, they unite instantly. Their history is full of enemies who became allies when facing a common threat. Representative Morgoth of the Shadow Empire spoke from his dark corner of the chamber. His species preferred darkness and rarely interacted with others. What do you recommend, Commander? Zethkar looked around the chamber at all the different species. Some were warriors, some were merchants, some were scientists. All of them were potential enemies of humanity if they made the wrong choice. I recommend we make sure humanity never has a reason to consider us enemies, he said. Because if they do, it will not matter how many ships we have or how advanced our weapons are. Humans have a concept they call total war. When they decide to fight, they commit everything. Their entire civilization becomes a weapon. Every factory makes military equipment. Every citizen becomes a soldier. Every resource is used for the war effort. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the most warlike species understood the implications. They do not stop when their armies are defeated. They do not surrender when their cities are destroyed. They keep fighting from caves, from forests, from the ruins of their own homes. And while they fight, they learn. They adapt. They find new ways to hurt their enemies. Council leader Zerion spoke carefully. Commander, what you describe sounds like madness. To us, perhaps, but to humans it is just Tuesday. Zethkar allowed himself a small smile at the human expression he had learned. They have a saying. Peace is the brief time between wars, when humans prepare for the next conflict. General Havrok stood up again. Commander, surely we could defeat them if we all work together. Combined, our fleets number in the thousands. Zethkar shook his head. General, you still do not understand. If we attack humanity, we will not be fighting soldiers or fleets. We will be fighting an idea. The idea that some things are worth dying for. The idea that freedom is more important than life itself. Ideas do not die when the people carrying them die. Ideas spread. They grow stronger under pressure. If we destroy Earth, humans scattered across the galaxy will remember. If we enslave them, they will teach their children to hate us. If we try to eliminate them, we will become the thing they unite against. The vote was held 2 hours later. For the first time in galactic history, the Council voted unanimously on a military matter. The Sol system was declared a protected zone. Humanity was invited to join the Galactic Council as equals, not as subjects. Ambassador Sarah Martinez arrived, from Earth 3 weeks later. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She spoke softly and carried no weapons. But every representative in the chamber knew what she represented. "Honored Council," she said in her acceptance speech. "Humanity is grateful for this opportunity to join the galactic community. We come in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation with all species." She paused and looked around the chamber. "We hope this friendship will last forever, because the alternative would be unfortunate for everyone involved." Commander Zethkar watched from the gallery as the human ambassador took her seat among the council members. He had returned to his homeworld a broken man, but his warnings had probably saved the galaxy from the most devastating war in its history. Later, he would write his memoirs about the invasion of Earth. The final chapter contained a single sentence that became famous across the galaxy. "We learned that there are species you can conquer, species you can bargain with, and species you can destroy. But humanity taught us there is a fourth category, species you simply do not want to fight." The galaxy had learned its lesson. In the vast cosmos filled with wonders and terrors, with ancient civilizations and powerful technologies, with beings of incredible intelligence and strength, humanity had earned a unique distinction. They were the species that everyone else was very careful to be nice to.